Okay, what do you remember about Louise?
Nothing.
I was under 2 when she passed away. I do have a picture at home that shows her standing behind me, and I'm in the high chair. Of course, I don't remember any of that, but that's the only way I have any idea of what Louise actually looked like. And I wish I had known her. I really do.
I don't have any stories of Louise, so.
Did you know that Brady grew up here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear any stories of his childhood here?
No, I didn't. I knew
But I thought after Louise passed that they moved over to Kenny Winkler's house.
After Louise passed?
Yes.
Or you mean Romaine?
No, I thought it was.
So they said Romaine was Brady's mother and Philip, and they lived here, and then they gave the farmhouse to Cora and Will Kessler because he was a farmer. And Brady and Louise went and lived by that little grocery store that you're talking about. Yeah, and that's where Betty was born, out there in a log cabin. And then when Cora died, they said, well, there's no children. Will can't live here by himself. So they moved in with Uncle Will, Brady, and Louise and Betty. And then Martha and Philip were born at that house. And then I know that Romaine died when Philip was a little boy. She still lived here. And Betty would come here and be watched by Romaine. And then when she died, I believe a worker moved in for a while, like one of the hired hands.
He was a distant relative.
A distant relative, okay.
Yes.
Was that Gabby Creed?
I don't remember the name. Mom might have mentioned him.
Because Creed was on the smokehouse door.
Oh, maybe it was. I don't remember that part. Yeah. From what Mom said, he didn't do anything. He was supposed to pay Grandpa rent, like $1, which he didn't do, and he didn't take care of the place. He wasn't the grass, he didn't do anything inside, and the house was actually falling into disrepair when finally Grandpa got him out of here, and then Mom and Dad moved in just shortly after they were married. But yeah, I don't know. And it seems like in my memory, I can picture that little house that was that Louise had bought, from what I heard. That little house over
across from St. Vincent.
Yes, it was right where the Frostop root beer stand was. And I can remember being on the school bus, and kids would, and maybe it's just a memory from what I heard talking, but I can remember seeing kids get out of that little house and get on the bus, and then we drop them off again. So I don't know if I've made a story up in my head based on Mom's stories or whether it actually was, but it wasn't there very long.
So where Kenny Winkler was, right next to Frostop, the brick house, there was another white house where his brick is now. And I remember going when they was getting ready to tear it down. Now, see, there again, I was little. And I went upstairs. It had a little crooked upstairs to get up, but I thought we brought out 2 chests of drawers.
I don't remember
But
that
I think that's the only thing in that house.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I remember about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that was where Cora would have been. No, because I got my stories messed up. So Louise was there then?
Yeah.
Okay. So then Cora lived up to...
Cora was living at the brick house.
Okay.
We have a letter that Romaine, which was Cora and Brady's mother, wrote to her friend, the Byers over there, and said, you know, she told the doctor, if you can save my daughter, I'll give you the farm. Just save her, and I'll write it all off to you. And he said, there's no way to bring her back. She lost too much blood. I know, but that's why I'm living there. So
Right, yes.
bittersweet, Cora.
Carrying on the family history.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Yeah, wonderful.
So then over at the cemetery,
Yeah.
so in the Melser Row, is Mom and Dad and Brady, Philip, Peter, Cora, and it has...
Kessler.
yes.
We took a picture of it. You want to see it? It says Kessler.
It does. I told you.
Yes.
I said it does. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, say
Yeah.
Kessler on it then, yes.
Yeah.
So, and then Betty is then one row back, and Philip is all the way in the other side.
Philip would have said okay to that, though. It was all about, he always said, do what's best for the most people.
That sounds like him.
Yeah.
He was very, very kind, very gentle. Yeah, mostly I remember him being very quiet, but apparently he had stories. He
Oh my
told.
gosh, the stories. I mean, you didn't worry about the pay when you cut the beans out because the stories made up for,
The
yes,
riddles.
he paid you to do it, but still, it was the stories was made it, so much worth it.
Which
Yeah.
cemetery are they buried in?
St. Vincent.
Okay. Okay. So we've talked about some of the houses on the homestead. Tell me about this house.
Mom and Dad, the way I heard the story, so you'd have better than me. They moved in here because Grandpa let them move in, and till they had enough money saved up and they were going to build a house in Anderson. And Mama made the comment that first winter that there was rainwater running down the stairway. That's how bad a disrepair it was in. And Dad worked and worked. I mean, he always worked on it.
Yeah, the two of them did a fabulous job with the house.
Yes.
From what, the early stories of how it was. And I can remember all through the years, Dad was always fixing something up or remodeling something at Mom's suggestion and direction. But they worked together, and Mom was very creative, had great ideas for how the house should look. And she told Dad, and then Dad made it happen. So it was a wonderful home. I can remember too when I was young that the upstairs wasn't used. In fact, there was no furnace. The only way to heat the house was little gas stoves in some of the rooms, and so they would close off the door into both doors into the stairway room. And it was always cold in there because it wasn't heated. So Ron and I would call it the cold room. And so eventually they put the furnace in, and then Ron and I were moved upstairs, and we each had our own room. And Mom and Dad wallpapered, refinished the furniture, refinished the woodwork, did all the repairs. And that was the start of having the house done so we could all live here. And gradually, as more children came along, then some changes were made. But yeah, they constantly worked on the house. I can remember once when Mom was cooking, and she loved to cook. So she was cooking and had a chicken in the pressure cooker. And one of the neighbors had stopped. Mom was always very social. One of the neighbors had stopped, and she went out to talk to them and lost track of time and came back in, and the pressure had gotten so big in the pressure cooker that the little gauge on the top flew off, and all this chicken grease went all over the kitchen, everywhere. It was such a mess. And so, of course, everything had to be cleaned of chicken broth everywhere, and the whole room had to be repapered, and the woodwork had to be repainted, and so it was a disaster. Mom couldn't blame anybody except herself for it.
But they worked hard together. I mean, because they're getting 8 of us kids plus the 2 of them to sit down for a meal.
Oh,
That's a lot of cooking.
yeah, it was. And we did. We had regular dinners when Dad got off work. He worked at Bell Telephone Company. And so he had regular hours for the most part. He was an installer at first. He would install, no. He was a lineman first, where he would climb poles. And then after he had fallen off a couple of times and bruised ribs and hurt his shins, he became an installer inside people's homes. And everybody loved Dad. He was pleasant, and he was had a good sense of humor, and people just loved him. And they all knew that he had all these kids at home, so they would give him things like tricycles and bicycles and wagons, and so he was always coming home with some kind of a new toy for us to play with.
What was your dad's name?
Lawrence.
Lawrence?
Lawrence Edward Spalding.
We called him
He went by
Larry.
Larry.
Okay.
He would get 2 bills from Depuries. One was Lawrence and one is Larry. Even though it was the same person. Just all depended who was running it up. Are you ready?